Some people seem to have this mindset of, oh, you're a flat earther, you must be stupid, you can't be right about anything. So they will debate you over some really simple matters. Here is something I said in my Midnight Zone video. We know that there's water in the Earth's atmosphere. It's just less dense than the water in the ocean. And the water in the air similarly filters light. But being less dense, it requires more room. In the ocean, the sunlight zone is said to extend from the surface to a depth of 656 feet deep. 1 mile is 5,280 feet. Daylight on Earth is said to extend about 12,450.5 miles. But that depends on the season. My point is, that is a lot more room.
This is false. Just less dense than the water in the ocean. That is an understatement. At 100% humidity, the maximum wetness air can be, the air is still almost completely transparent. It is not darker on days of 100% humidity. Daylight on Earth extends about 12,450.5 miles. This is a meaningless statement in the context of the humidity and density.
Vimal, you say it's not darker on days of 100% humidity? Have you really never seen it get darker outside in the middle of a storm? And take a look at this. Here, nearly half of the sun is being blocked from our view by atmospheric opacity, the atmosphere's ability to prevent the light from passing through it. To that, Vimal made no response, but instead pointed back to my opening statement and made a different argument.
Moot points. We can see through the entire ocean depth with sonar even if it is dark. Likewise, we can see through dense clouds with special radar. But even these techniques can't detect the sun once it sets.
That's not arguing against anything I said. Nonetheless, opacity is just one factor. There are other factors involved. Seeing past opacity doesn't factor out refraction or the divergence of light. Vimal made no response to that, but instead went back to his argument and tried to support it.
The planet Venus has an atmosphere much more dense than Earth's, with surface pressure being 93 times the atmospheric pressure on Earth.
How does that support your argument, and what does it have to do with anything? Let's play your argument back again.
Moot points. We can see through the entire ocean depth with sonar even if it is dark. Likewise, we can see through dense clouds with special radar. But even these techniques can't detect the sun once it sets.
Yeah, that definitely seems pretty random. Nonetheless, how do you know what Venus is made of?
Using spectroscopy, light coming from Venus can be studied to ascertain its composition.
That method doesn't work. It can't tell exactly how much the light has been distorted between point A and point B. It also can't distinguish between the elements in between the Earth and Venus that the light might be passing through.
No astronomer worth his salt would say spectroscopy doesn't work. Spectroscopy can also be performed from orbit around the planet being studied. You are not an astronomer, you have no professional knowledge of it.
No astronomer worth his salt would say spectroscopy doesn't work. That is the no true Scotsman fallacy. The example they use here is, Angus declares that Scotsmen do not put sugar on their porridge. To which Lachlan points out that he is a Scotsman and he puts sugar on his porridge. Furious, like a true Scot, Angus says that no true Scotsman puts sugar on his porridge. In which case, Vimal here is basically saying, no true astronomer would say that spectroscopy doesn't work. And Vimal also said, you are not an astronomer. You have no professional knowledge of it. This is attacking the person, not the argument, and qualifies as the genetic fallacy. This is judging something as either good or bad, or right or wrong, based on where the information came from, or who said it. This is where we are seeing defense mechanisms kicking in. A defense mechanism is an unconscious process, like denial, that protects an individual from unacceptable or painful ideas or impulses. No further arguments were made on that line of thought, but next Vimal went back to his opening argument and tried to support it with a different claim.
The surface of Venus imaged using synthetic aperture radar SAR that can peer through the most dense of clouds.
Okay, what radar can cast a signal strong enough to get all the way to Venus and back and still have a recognizable signal?
You know, NASA would love you to believe that they can have a 20-watt transmitter and it can transmit billions and billions and billions of miles, on the spacecraft, but somehow we have to have 50,000 watts plus just to have it listen to our AM radio station around the city, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people.
Incredulity fallacy.
No, I asked a question. I didn't make an argument. And it seems you're trying to avoid answering that question.
How did you verify Mount Everest exists if you haven't been there in person?
Again, that really doesn't answer my question. Nonetheless, Mount Everest falls within the realm of plausibility. Satellites flying out an apparent 82 million miles away that can shoot a recognizable signal all the way back to Earth does not fall within the realm of plausibility.
That's only your interpretation of plausibility. There's nothing that precludes the latter. It has been done. We have sent spacecraft to all planets in the solar system, let alone Venus, which is the closest one. You refuse to acknowledge it because it destroys your narrative.
No, I'm sorry. I don't believe you because you haven't provided any proof to substantiate your claims. Merely saying, NASA said so, is not enough to convince me, I'm sorry. And that is as far as that debate got. Sometime after that, Vimal went and said, well, science never proves anything, and thereby forfeited all of his definitive claims on the entire board. Saying or believing science never proves anything, and then coming to a debate is like showing up to a soccer match and saying your team is unable to score any goals. It is automatic forfeiture. In the meantime, this debate remains here on my debate board, ready and waiting for anyone else to step in and say something. Powered by Miro.com. This message has been brought to you by the Flat Earth Institute of Science. Thank you all for watching.